So today we are going to be talking about job completion and completion process. So that includes completing operations, includes the checks required to do prior to completing the job. So making sure everything is done and dusted within the job before you tick the final complete flag. And just the general workflow around that area there. So first up, so the job completion and receipting guide is covered by user guide, available on Beacon Web. So that's here. This one is for manufacturing jobs, and this one is for maintenance jobs. Most of the principles are the same. And I'll go through and describe what the differences are as we step through the process. So if we just pull open the guide, I'll just show a workflow at a high level. So first step of any job completion process is if the product that you're completing, delivering, and the product that you manufactured is a serial tracked item, you must first assign a serial number, and then at that point in time, you can then receipt the job. We described in one of the earlier modules that any manufacturing job can be opened up for one of three reasons. So that's the demand concept. So it's either a demand to inventory, in which case you need to receipt your final product, your job, to inventory. It is a demand to another job, in which case you need to receipt the job to the parent job, or it is a job made directly to a sales order, in which case a customer shipment needs to be done before you complete the job, and this is typically done by either the sales team or the logistics team, and then you can move on to your final review and job completion. And in the very last step, the engineers, the production planners complete the job only, and finance does a final check-in review, and then they close the job. So as described in a previous session of training on the concept of demand, when finance close the job is when the costs of the job move from the work in progress account to the cost of sales account. So that's when the transaction of the costs moves from the work in progress bucket, so to speak, to the cost of sales bucket, and then it's associated against the revenue that we've generated out of this work. So on to the module. So if we pull up a job example, so this job here, 101082, is to make this part number, which is a HPU control manifold and housing. You will notice that it has a bunch of assemblies and sub-assemblies. It has some operations, and it has materials. Whoop. You'll notice that it's also serial tracked. The reason you see this is this button here is highlighted in orange. You can also check its serial track status by going into the part tracker. Usually the person running the job, the production planner, will know whether it's serial tracked from the beginning of the job anyhow. But I'll just show you where you can see that. So tracking serial numbers has been turned on here. So the very first step before we continue any further is to make sure we assign a serial number for this part number. It's a production quantity of 1, so we're delivering 1 out of this job, so you will need 1 serial number. So we just press this button, pulls up the serial number assignment screen. That's a job number. You're assigning serial number to the top level assembly. That's the part number there. We click this serial numbers box. There's a serial number here generated. That's the serial number there. So our serial number format for manufactured items is the part number, hyphen, and then a sequential digit with no leading zeros. So the next serial number in this sequence, if we make it in the future, will be -2. That's okay. And then we just save that. Okay, good. That's all good. I think I've already signed it. There we go. That's fine. All right. So the next step is, so you notice that as you quickly review the job here on the left-hand side, you'll notice that there is one operation which is not complete, and you'll notice that one material hasn't been issued. The way you can tell that is due to the tick on the little green tick. So effectively, you have to understand what's required here and complete each of these before you go to job completion stage. So as we're going through and as tasks are being completed, we need to complete the operations and we need to issue the materials either from stock or from a purchase order or from another job, as it may be. So each of those steps are required. So let's talk about operation completion first up. So we go to the menu here, we go to production management, job management, entry edit process. Job operation completion is here. Okay, job operation completion 101082, load. So we've got a couple operations that need completing. We just tick this box there. You just review it. You see the estimated production hours, the labor hours which are approved, labor hours not approved. So you can just sort of see at what stage this is at. If there's labor hours which are not approved, just ensure that they go through to approval stage before you complete the operation because they're outstanding at the moment. So as long as these boxes are clear, then you're okay to go and complete the operation once you've determined that the physical task has been completed. And then you just click save. And the process runs in the background to complete the operation. Operation's completed. Just load the job again. Oh, and I missed one here, but you can actually tick multiple at the same time. Operations completed. Good. All right, so that's done. We go back to the job entry and refresh the job. You notice that the operation then will tick in the green color. Cool. Now onto the material requirements. So once you reviewed, you will notice that some materials have not been issued complete. In this case, there are two options. Either if it is outstanding, it hasn't been issued, go and issue the material using the inventory management process we talked about in a separate training session to issue the material from stock, for example. If you purchase the material on the purchase order, it means the purchase order hasn't been receipted yet. So we need to check out on the status of that purchase order, check with logistics or the purchasing department on the status of that. Once the material is received in at stores, and they receipt it, then the receipt will happen and the issuing will happen automatically. Or if this was initially required but now is no longer required, you have two options: either delete it. However, you can't delete it. In some cases, you may have purchased it on a purchase order, but then cancelled the purchase order, avoided the purchase order, in which case you can't actually delete the material because there is a transaction against it, albeit the transaction has been voided. What you need to do then is just set the quantity to 0. So you will notice in this case, this example job, the production planner has set the quantity to 0. It's turned to this little blue flag. So it just means that, yeah, I can't delete this material, but I don't need any required quantity of 0. And you're effectively saying, I don't need this material anymore. So you leave it in a 0 quantity state. So that's fine there. So once you've done that, operations are completed, materials have been reviewed, any outstanding purchase orders, then you go to the job closing and completion screen, which is this one here. And I've opened that up prior. So you just load the job number in. So that's there. So you notice at this stage that it's flagged up. So I can't actually tick any boxes here. Complete this allowed production quantity, which is 1, is greater than the received to stocked, received to job, or shipped quantity. So one of these needs to be filled in with a 1, and the sum of these needs to equal the production quantity. So it means we need to receipt the job first before we go and complete it. And this then transfers the cost of this job into wherever the demand for the job is. So let's just quickly review the demand of the job. So the demand summary is here in job entry. This part number is a make to job. The source job is this job number. And then, so it needs to be receipted up into this job. So what we need to then go to is material management, inventory management, job receipt to job. From job 101082. To job. So this all gets automatically populated. You're receipting a quantity of 1. The issue complete automatically ticks because you're receipting 1 and the required is 1. The required quantity on the job above is 1. Serial numbers. Retrieve available. Serial number is required. Hang on a second. I need to create a serial. That serial number was not created successfully. In any case, I won't go through that now, but effectively that serial number which we did at the beginning wasn't created properly. This is an older job, so we just need to assess that. Anyway, assuming the serial number was created properly, you go through there, you select the serial number. If there is a serial number required, press OK, and the job has been receipted up. At that stage, then once that has been receipted, you will have, you go in here and refresh, received job will be 1, so that would be equal, and then this checkbox will come available. Here again, you can do a bit of a due diligence check. You'll see all the operations on the job completed, so that's good. You'll see all the material on the job. All are completed except for 1. However, this one, which has been completed, was the one that we've zeroed off in terms of quantity. So everything is okay for that. You can do a quick check on any. So actually that's for finance function, any purchase orders not invoiced at that stage. But you can do a quick diligence check, which may highlight a purchase order which is outstanding. But again, you will see that from the outstanding material requirements and job entry. And at this stage, you then complete the flag. So that's what the production engineers or the engineers were required to do. And then at that stage, finance monitor a dashboard regularly, and they will then close this job. Usually they'll close it towards the end of the month and review that and close a whole bunch of jobs in batch. So that will pretty much complete the job, and then finance can close, and finance closes the job. Then we'll just jump across to maintenance jobs. I'll just pick a job which is open. Okay, so maintenance job, the same process. We check that all the operations have been completed. We check that all the materials have been completed. We notice that this one hasn't. So we just quickly check. We notice that the required quantity has been zeroed off, which is great. If you don't require it, if you do require it, go chase up either if it's a purchased item, go and chase up the purchase order, or if it's an item required from another sub job, go and chase up the owner of that sub job, and then ensure that that's receipted up before you complete this job. So then you go here. Once you review that, so with maintenance jobs are slightly different. There's no separate interface to do the completion process. It is the same screen to go and complete operations. So that's this one here, job operation completion screen, if you do need to complete operations. And then what you then just do is, so maintenance job is usually to do maintenance work. There's an issue, and then there's a resolution. So you go to the resolution tab. You might type in some details such as found faulty seal or whatever. You can put some other comments in there, and then you can job complete, any other comments that you require. You then pick a topic for the completion. So it might have been unplanned maintenance, for example. Save that. And then at that stage, we close the job. You notice this notice here says notify finance once closed. This is in the case that that there's a sales order linked. So if this is populated with a number, that means that the job is invoiceable in a way, in which case you need to notify finance that this job has been closed and that they can take the cost out and go and invoice against the sales order. So at that point in time, you need to notify finance. If, however, it's a job not linked to a sales order, and it's just for maintenance against an existing equipment, for example, you can go ahead and close the job. There's access to the user guide there. Just click job close, save, and you notice that the status has changed to close. So that's pretty much it for the job closing process. Where did the manual go? Job closing. So in the case of finance, you notice the slight difference between a manufacturing job and a maintenance job. That in the manufacturing job, you just complete the job and then finance closes the job. But for a maintenance job, there's one step pretty much, and you just close the job straight away. And you notify finance in the case that the job is invoiceable, in which case they need to go and do some movement of the costs manually themselves. And the maintenance job closing guide is just here as well. Similar process, just a bit more simple. Review the outstanding materials and operations, close the job, notify finance if the sales order field is linked up. All right.